Hey Alan, hey Bruce. This is going to be a response to Bruce. Bruce, you said you blocked me, which I find a little worrying. It's like, again, I don't care whether you agree with me or not, Bruce. Again, I understand that you disagree with me. Hey, most of my subscribers disagree with me, Bruce. See, because I can disagree with them civilly. Again, I'm not saying that I'm, smarter than them or better than them. I don't claim to be better than any of my subscribers. I just find it worrying when you said, "Oh, well, your subscribers because you claim to be this, that, and the other," and blah 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 blah. Okay, so let's talk about this. I've had 2 hangouts in the space of 24 hours. I can't link you to the first one, but I can link you to the second one, which was basically on Ron's channel, where I was dogpiled, talked over, and I couldn't get a coherent sentence out. Now, there are a couple of claims that he made about me, a couple of claims he made about others, which I'll get to in a minute. But, first of all, Bruce, I've never claimed to be more intellectual on any subject than anybody else. I claim to be just as intellectual, but I don't. Because people have different education, different subjects they're interested in, different levels of learning. Again, it doesn't make you more educated or more intellectual. It just means that you have more interest and more fervour to read on a subject. I've never said that in any way makes me superior to anybody. Again, I've never made that argument, and I've never said that. I don't know where you got that from, and I never said it. Secondly, I don't claim to be a scholar. If you want a scholar, look at N.T. Wright, look at Bart Ehrman. Again, look at the 4 ones I mentioned to you. The ones that didn't say that Mark 16 when they did. It's called scholarly consensus, Bruce. It's something you can look up in academia and how people come to conclusions about specific pieces of work that might need that sort of approach. But, and here's a big but, I don't claim to be a scholar. I claim to be I'm an amateur. I'm an amateur compared to people who do this for a living. If I was a scholar, I'd be like, some professor in in some university somewhere. Again, I don't claim that. I've read a couple of books, and I've read the early church fathers, which you haven't read. No, that wasn't my point. My point was, it's very scary to me that you keep on talking about Jesus, you keep on talking about Paul, but you don't mention the early church fathers and their doctrines. You don't talk about any of that stuff. I mean, if you actually read what they actually thought, you'd be surprised, because you'd actually find out what their actual feelings was. That intellectual Christianity wasn't a bad thing. And you keep on saying, "Oh, we've had to correct you on next project, you have nothing, blah 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 blah." No, what you've done is that you've disagreed with my personal interpretation of Scripture, which means that you disagree with me personally, which again, I don't mind. I mean, people have different interpretations of Scripture because you're going to come to it with a personal biases. What you have to do, Bruce, is try and remove that personal biases. Whether you believe it, whether you don't believe it, whether you think it's a bunch of fairy tales, whether you think it's truth, whatever you think of what is thinking about it, you've got to remove that bias from you and look at it objectively. And that means you've got to look at it in the context that it was written. You've got to understand it in that context. Otherwise it will make zero sense. And you won't be able to defend it because there's things in there that apply to Second Temple Judaism. Especially, this is the New Testament that I'm talking about. If you understand Second Temple Judaism, you'll understand the New Testament. It is just as simple as that. Now, this is a book you should pick up. This is a book that I've recommended to a lot of Christians. It's actually by a person who's pretty conservative and pretty fundamental, very evangelical in his faith. Let's look at this. because I want to read something there, Bruce, and this might this might be a bit of a throwback for you. Let's read the list for you. We of course recognise that most stories are far away more complex than this one. They contain subdivision, plots within plots, and so forth. We shall see in a moment that a model has essentially one plot within another. So, you have to understand that. You have to understand other things about the New Testament, for example, early church writings, that sort of thing, and because it gives your view more interesting. And now again, I'm not saying take my word for it, because again, I could be wrong, and I'll admit that. Again, I don't claim to be infallible. I'm actually far from it. If people prove me wrong, I say thank you, and I try and correct my thinking to try and avoid that in the future. If you watch the thing that we had about the whole, the thing that got on your core with the black holes, I admit that, when it comes to science, I know very little compared to, somebody like Paul or Thunderford and Aaron. Again, I don't claim to be academically astute in that topic, so again, there are things that, again, I don't claim to be intellectual about. Now, let's talk about Michael for a second. Because I'm finished talking about me. You would not let Michael say a goddamn sentence, and you would seek over you just weren't going to rant, and then you wouldn't let him finish. You wouldn't let him get a sentence out. Now, you wouldn't let him finish. You wouldn't let him. Now, you tried to pull up a video, but he couldn't have that because he was going to work. Now, I'm sure he would defend any video that you have a problem with. Again, that's fine. Again, I don't want to speak for Michael, but the video you're talking about, he doesn't say half the things you guys accuse him of. So what's he supposed to say? Say, oh yeah, I say the things that I didn't say, and you're saying that I did say. No, it doesn't work like that. You wouldn't like it if I made full claim about you and the things you apparently said. Again, I'm quoting verbatim here what you said about me, what you said about Michael, and what you said about James. Now, James in his video was just doing a funny video about how he's right, and he was right, Bruce, because if you wanted to have a conversation, you'd have a conversation. Again, you talked over Michael, you talked over me, he won't let us get a coherent sentence in, and every time we try to give you a coherent answer, it would be blah 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 blah. Again, and me and Michael are polite enough to let you finish, but you're not polite enough to let us finish. Now again, I don't claim to know more than you are, to be more technically more astute in the Bible than you. As I said, I don't know the level of knowledge you have when it comes to Scripture. But I find it worrying that you don't know who the early church fathers were, you don't know what they believed, and you don't and you do cross readings, you do actual textual criticism. I doubt it, but again, I don't make judgments about other people. I mean, maybe you do those things. If you do, excellent. That means that you're on the right path to be more educated on the Bible, and maybe and understand that sort of behaviour of, well, you're not a true Christian because you don't think the way I did, is not very Christian-like. And maybe that's something that you should learn from this, Bruce, is that despite our differences, aren't we all one brotherhood? Aren't we called to love each other despite our differences? That even if we anger each other, to turn away wrath, and to pray on it, and to ask for forgiveness when we're brought to anger. No, Bruce, that's something that you could possibly do. is instead of getting mad with us, because we believe just as much as you do. You see that we're not Christians, but again, me, Michael, James, all profess Christ. The difference is that we don't force it down other people's throats. We don't say that people who are atheists, have reprobate minds, are somehow, lying or trying to get one up home. And that's the thing that you did. You said all atheists, you didn't qualify with some. Now, I'll grant you, some atheists do that. Some Christians do that. It isn't. I don't think it's necessarily an atheist thing to do, which is be antagonistic and be not addressing the points. But some atheists do address the points and actually want to have a conversation with you because they're interested in your opinion and maybe they're interested and you should be interested in yours. It's called reciprocal thinking. And again, what me, Michael, and James do is not because we want to get in with anybody or we want to convert people. What we do is that we try to have a conversation because maybe that's the first step in trying to get them to think about Christianity in a different way than they have before. And maybe that will set them on the path to conversion because I can't convert anybody. And I'll be very clear, again, I don't want to speak for Michael and James, but I don't want to convert anybody. Because I think it's Christ who does the converting. I won't give them a nudge in the right direction. But, again, at the end of the day, it's up to it's Christ to call them. It's Christ to, work in their heart. And I think that Christ works through me and what I do. And I don't see what your problem is, man. I mean, is your problem that I'm not, quoting the gospel to them or stuff like that? Do you know what? They've probably read the gospel. I have enough respect for their intelligence that they've read the gospels, heard the arguments, and maybe they want something a bit fresher to maybe, or just a normal discussion. Maybe that will, maybe think, that's interesting. And if I could get them to say, that's interesting, for one moment, I've got that interest. And as soon as I've got that interest, then I can introduce parts of the gospel to them. But instead of what you do, which is to force the gospel at them, they're going to get sick of that. It's like when you feed somebody, nothing but sausage and mash for the rest of their life. While sausage and mash is nice on occasion, you don't want to eat it every day, do you? You want something a bit fresher, and maybe trying a different approach might work for you. Just a thought. This is Phoneybeetlemaniacxs, 4 Dreams Come True, out.